What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? My name is Jade, and I could not be more thrilled to have the whole team in my apartment tonight. Simon Anderson, how are you going, mate?
Jade Farrar, good to be here in the flesh. Good to get together for the silly season and get a podcast, kanohi ki te kanohi, face to face. So it's just feels like a privilege to be here, and thankful to be able to get one of these done before Christmas.
It's a vibe. We got this side is going right now.
That's right. We do.
We're calling this one the Red Traffic Light Special. I've got these glasses on for no apparent reason. Let's just see if this is long enough. Is that gonna be long?
Probably not. No. It's all right. We'll cross that bridge.
We'll work with that. Simon's headphones are gone flat, but welcome back to another episode of the Here Is What We Know podcast. As I said, the whole team's here. We got a whole bunch of stories to run through with you this afternoon. But before that, a question of the day. And this one is a little bit on the hop, so we don't have the usual heads-up display for you. But I wanted to ask the whole team, since we're all together, what has been the most standout moment of 2021 for each of you? Like, it should be easy, because it should just be like, boom, that's it for me.
Yeah.
Standout moment.
Oh.
That's really tough. I don't know. There's lots of things have happened, but I don't know what really stands out as the moment. Nothing jumps straight to mind. I'm gonna have to think on it a second.
Okay,
Yeah.
Henny, you got one?
I
I thought I'd make it least philosophical since we're doing this one on the hop.
It's a real tough one. I don't really have a specific one, but I think more I'd put it to things that have changed that have really stood out to me is the 4 p.m. stand-ups from our Prime Minister.
I think they're 1 p.m. now.
Oh, 1 p.m. stand-ups. See, I don't watch them. No, thank you. Don't need to keep on this talking about morbid COVID and how terrible it is. So I think that's really stood out to me, and just how it's affected the human rights and how it's trying to abuse New Zealanders' rights and trying to abuse and trying to push people towards a certain viewpoint without telling them the true facts.
I think for me, the standout moment, and this is a really small one, but back in August when the Prime Minister said this was going to be short and sharp. Like, I still remember that, and I remember vividly that she said we're initially going in for a period of 3 days. So that stuck with me. I've been obsessed with that 3 days. We're going in for a short, sharp lockdown. It could be longer than 3 days. We're going to reevaluate. We'll come back to you. It's all fine. And now we're at a stage where we've got full-on vaccine mandates. Quite a broad stroke of expectation for the vaccine. And yeah, that's pretty standout for me. Diggs, by the way, thank you for joining the chat. We really appreciate you coming out.
What's up? And I think the highlight moment for me, just to kind of keep it, I guess, on brand with your highlights, was a moment in time when there was a gunshot victim in our Auckland city, and there was a couple news stories run at the time about how this gunshot victim was going to be added to our COVID death toll, and the news are making it up like, oh, it's just a formality, it's just part of the rules, how he was identified having COVID and that he must be added to the to the list, and then it'll work itself out. But like, for me, it just kind of stressed and highlighted the point where we don't always, as a society, do the most straightforward or common sense thing. We just follow the rules and do stupid shit like that, and forever put doubt on our statistics like that, because when everyone talks about the COVID death toll, are they including a gunshot victim? We'll never know, because the people who make the decisions never come out in a month's time and say, oh hey, by the way, we've actually ruled that guy who got shot to death didn't really die of COVID and isn't part of the death toll. That never happens. They never say that. So I mean, that was a bit of a highlight for me, was seeing that moment and seeing the press coverage of it, and it just really opens your eyes to just what the point of the press is.
Yeah, you make a good point there, Simon, and then my brain goes to, what is the incentive for seeking a higher number? Like, doesn't that seem like a very low bar for entering a COVID case?
It seems like almost below ground level.
Yep.
It's a negative bar. That guy got shot.
Yeah.
Regardless of how deathly ill of COVID you were, it was definitely the gunshot wound that did the killing rather than the COVID, right? Like if you're in bed, if you're in an ICU bed in hospital because of COVID, and someone walks up to you and pulls the trigger, sorry to say, but you died from a gunshot wound rather than the COVID you were in the hospital for.
Yeah.
And of course, as the title says, we are in red traffic light settings, and it's a bit of a minefield. If I could just flag this with the team here, it's hard to know who's doing what and when, because they've kind of drawn a line in retail, but I think people are interpreting retail differently. Have you noticed that, Simon?
I haven't really gone out into the wild to see how the system's played out just yet. So hard to know, but just the different traffic lights and how they're applied to different industries. I don't know, just disparate and really disjointed. It just makes no sense when you can have congregations of certain groups of people without restrictions in some businesses, and then with other businesses that's much more restricted, when potentially the risk profile of either of those industries is very different.
Except for one thing, and I'll tell my story, then we'll come to you, Hannah. So you can be in a mall, Simon. You can be in a mall. Like, you can walk around the mall. You don't need a vaccine pass. And you can actually enter most of the shopping facilities. I go to EB a bit. Just picked up the new Forza Horizon, for example. But as soon as I come out of the EB and I go towards the Starbucks in the middle, like there's a kiosk there. It's not really a store. It's kind of in the middle of the mall. You go there and sorry, you need your pass.
The big thing with that too, not only that is, so we went there on Friday. No, she didn't ask for our pass, and then on Saturday when we went there,
Yeah.
she almost asked for our pass, and it was almost like she was talking to us like, well, I'm not going to serve you, not just like about, it wasn't just about your seating arrangement.
No, I said this to Simon offline. She said, oh, you can buy your coffee, but you definitely can't sit here.
Yeah.
She was so blunt. It was so rough.
Yeah, but then there's probably like 4 meters away in that same mall, there is mall seating, and the mall seating's actually returned, so, and there's no restriction on that.
But you've been doing a lot of surfing and stuff like that, Simon?
Yeah, no, there's no COVID restrictions or vaccine passports out in the ocean.
Yet.
Yeah, not yet, no. There was, I tell you what though, on Friday afternoon, because it was Freedom Day, there is this beach out west, I can't actually remember the proper name for it, but most people call it Mouldy Bay, which is next to Muriwai. And it's a great beach for beach art because the car park in the road is pretty much vertically above the sand, And so the tide goes out, and people do lots of massive drawings on the sand. And when the tide goes down, it makes a pretty cool picture. But somebody had written pretty much across the whole beach in massive letters, freedom, and then a big bird. So it's, I guess, maybe some sort of message, potentially. I mean, I read into it just because I know the community out that way and their vaccination rates probably aren't that high. And it was probably a bit of a sarcastic message of, you know, that it's not true freedom that we've experienced so far. And there was actually there was a lady. I'm not gonna make a joke out of whatever she was doing, because who knows, she might be doing some sort of spell to undo all this madness. But she had a little drum in her hand, and she was walking the lines that she'd drawn and was just tapping the same beat. And I don't know what she was saying, but she was either singing or something. So it was some sort of ritual experience for her. So I mean, yeah, Friday meant a lot to different people.
Oh, amazing. And I'm gonna stay on this, but go on a slight tangent here. So, have you found it difficult to stay motivated, Simon? Like, how much of that are you willing to share?
Totally. I mean, when you are following what's going on globally and I guess, on a macro scale, and what's happening on a countrywide scale here, it's hard not to find some of the factors that we're dealing with really unsettling or just frustrating. So it does cloud your long-term vision. It makes it hard for you to put faith that your routine will just continue to serve you, because at any moment you could be thrusted from your routine. If you are any sort of invested in stocks or crypto, you can totally see what's happening in terms of the value of money, and realize that we're dancing with a severe recorrection, I think, on the horizon.
I was doing some research, as I always do, for the show, and I'm not sure if we'll have time for it today, but there's a bill out for discussion around a digital currency for New Zealand, issued by the New Zealand Reserve Bank. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I was just checking in with some of the Telegram groups I follow, and they were talking about there only being a few days left for submissions for the bill. But yeah, I was aware that it was coming out.
Terrible idea. Terrible idea. Leave the crypto to the crypto people. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to head into the stories. And Simon, I believe that you've agreed to go first.
Yes, I have indeed.
So here's what we've got.
Yeah, so the title says, COVID-19, shameless and very misguided, in quote marks. New market protesters cost local stores. So what we've got there is an article from RNZ with a bit of an opinion from the local business association. So what they've done is they've said that this group of protesters that gathered on Saturday to get their message out there caused hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of lost business to the businesses of Newmarket. And on some level, I can kind of understand where they're coming from with businesses being locked down and closed for so long, and now only being able to open up to vaccinated people. And they clearly wanted to make as much advantage of those vaccinated people as possible. First week of freedom, people were just dying to get rid of their money. So of course the businesses of Newmarket were expecting to kind of rake it in this week. But there is a counter side to this story, and the fact is that there was thousands of people who gathered on the first Saturday of summer in Auckland City on average weather, and got together to advocate for a common cause and to highlight a part of our society that lots of people don't agree with. And there's no way any sort of protest is ever going to be effective without any sort of inconvenience being caused on some other party that's not the protesters. This is how it works. I will point to Black Lives Matter's protests all over the states.
Mate, oh my
and
god.
they're just relentless destruction and riots. But you know, they're never called they were never called shameless and very misguided. You know, they were made of the news were apologists in their behaviour and made excuses for them. So it just goes to show like how manipulative and one-sided the media are, and they're there just to support one side, and that's the government, really.
Staying with your point around Black Lives Matter, was there any burning of buildings or grotesque looting of the beautiful street of Broadway, which I frequent so often?
Well, so I was there myself for most of the protest. I missed some of the speeches at the beginning, but I did the full walk pretty much, and most of the people on the side of the streets were pretty much in support or in good spirits, thumbs up. There were people in all the plazas waving and smiling, and you know, people who obviously couldn't join the protest, but you know, were like, yeah, we support you. You know, we wish you're fighting for us, kind of stuff. And this is obviously just one group of people that they've asked for an opinion because they knew this is exactly what they were going to write, and this sort of outrage gets attention from people like us and other people, and it makes it easy for like a piece of like news for housewives to kind of throw around with their neighbours and talk about the rabble of the protesters disrupting their coffee and their shopping spree on a Saturday in Newmarket.
There's been a lot of parallels drawn between the Freedom and Rights Coalition and obviously Brian Tamaki, because he's a firm supporter of the movement. Should people be making those links?
Well, I mean, he wasn't there because he's risking, I think, proper jail time now if he attends, just for the time being. But I mean, clearly he is linked in some way because he's supportive of the organisation. How linked and how intimately involved in decision making for their actions as a group he is, I couldn't tell. But I mean, he is the most well-known name, and I think he's helpful for the average New Zealand citizen to use as like a scapegoat for the anti-establishment side, because most people know who he is, right? Like I think he's the perfect person for the media to put up as the one person leading up all the resistance, because everybody knows who he is, and he's often been made out to be a bit of a buffoon in the media and multiple times. So I think he's the perfect guy for the media to pin up and say, hey, this is the leader of the resistance. How credible can they be?
Are you surprised there's not more activity around protests or at least resisting these mandates / vaccine passes? Are you surprised that it's really just the Freedom and Rights Coalition? So I'll lead out and say that I'm really surprised. Like you made parallels for us with what's going on in Sydney, I believe it is. Is that right?
Oh, Melbourne's the most.
Melbourne, okay.
Yeah, that's what's going on there.
Yeah, so they're going for gold, and they definitely don't like what's going on, and I sort of see the Freedom and Rights Coalition as really key to the resistance movement, but also they're quite small comparatively. Is that a fair?
I'm not sure. I wouldn't really know about the size.
Just from what you see in the videos.
Oh, right. Oh, I mean, yeah, in comparison to like the population of Auckland, yeah, the group is pretty small.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's still enough people, and I tell you what, and it's not all the same people. That I was saying to a couple of my friends, there is such a diverse group of people at those protests. It's not just one fringe group of society getting out and saying enough is enough. It looks like there is a pretty decent cross section of Auckland City at those protests, from young to old to different ethnicities, religions, all sorts. They were all there And I even said, I was like, where's all the white supremacy? Where's all the violence? It was such a peaceful vibe. You had the Hare Krishnas dancing and singing up the road, and everybody was just having a good time. It was very good. It was a very good experience for me.
So reflecting what you're saying, would you say people would be surprised at the people that were there, like people you wouldn't necessarily expect, just
totally
regular old Kiwis?
Yeah, people that you would definitely not look at twice in the street.
Excellent. Hannah, what are your reflections about these protests and stuff like that? Because I've said this offline to a bunch of people. I'm actually, it's been a source of hope for me, is what I've said to people.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. And kind of going back to the title of how they've represented the protest is actually so wrong. And then those people are so against those who they think are anti-vaxxers, I just think blowing it out of proportion and then seeing that it's even worse than it is. And I think it is so great to see people actually pushing back, and it's our bodies. We shouldn't be forced to do it, and it's so great that there's such a variety of people coming out to this, and I do really hope that this does roll on and actually have effects.
Now, here's a question, and this is for both of you. I'll start with Simon. Do you think these, not just the one this weekend, obviously, but do you think the protests in totality are having an impact on the Beehive at all?
Absolutely. Every single decision they have made regarding the pandemic response is completely political. Pardon me. It is just all about managing people's fear levels so that they are constantly complying with the latest measure that's coming in, and just kind of paralyzed in waiting in response. So I think every single part of the response has been affected by our perception of what's going on, right? Like the decisions to relax the alert levels and things like that don't seem to be based in science, because no markers that the public were available to assess the pandemic on, which is case numbers and R values and the spread in the community and unlinked cases. We saw all that, and the numbers were going up and they weren't going down. And you had large groups of communities saying, we can't go to level 3, we absolutely can't, you're going to kill communities. You've got Māori saying, send body bags to the regions. And what did they do?
Level 3.
They're level 3. And what have they done now? Traffic light system. Vaccination rates are so low in other regions, and these people are setting up their own makeshift roadblocks. What about that sounds like a sound public health based decision and response to a pandemic?
Yeah, well, exactly. And notwithstanding though, Simon, something that we've said on the show many a time, based on evidence, if you're under the age of 60, you have no pre-existing health conditions, you're quite likely to get over this real fast. That's what the evidence says, right?
Even if you get the new Omicron variant, which supposedly is a little bit more mild than Delta. So, yeah, hopefully that kind of spreads around and we all get that, build up some immunity, and we can forget about it.
My goodness me. And last point I want to make on this before we move to my story is it lost on you about this digital ID thing?
No, not at all.
Because there's also a bill in for that, and I can't get past the idea. This is Jade going tinfoil hat now. I can't get past the idea that the My Vaccine Pass is just like the precursor to us all having to carry some sort of real-time confirmation type ID on us at all times.
Well, see, if you follow the documents that groups like the World Economic Forum and the Rockefeller Foundation and the Bill and Gates Foundation have paid to produce and share, their Agenda 2030 and all of those exercise papers talk about a digital ID system that links your bank account, your carbon footprint, your social credit score, your vaccination passport, all of that in with a digital ID that you could even store underneath your skin. I think we talked about this in a prior podcast about the fact that you can store vaccination data with ink underneath the skin. You know, like special, not UV specifically, but the similar concept that then allows people to have their vaccination information.
Sorry, we're getting some feedback.
I can hear myself twice.
Yeah, just give me a second here. Oh, I know where that's come from. There we are. Sorry, you were saying?
Well, yeah, you were talking about you wondering whether you're going to have some single source of every truth piece of ID. Yeah. Well, no, their own resources and documents of how they predict the future to unfold talks about going a step further and having that information stored under the skin with special ink that is read by a special scanner that is stored in your skin and is unalterable.
Is that where the microchip rumor came? Because the pro-choice community basically fell off the wagon as soon as people were trying to claim that the microchips were going in?
So, I mean, yeah, it's a very much like Alex Jones turning the frogs gay moment. I'm not sure. Have I used that before?
I've heard about that.
Yeah, so it's very much so like people go, they're putting microchips in the vaccine, but what in reality is that there is the technology being researched and the intention for and the wish and the planning for of people to inject vaccines into or inject liquid or under the idea of being a vaccine into our system that then allows us to be identified and have our information recorded like that. And not having to have anything carried on the person.
Who wins? Who wins with this? Because I've said to you before, Simon, I try to be try to stay away from conspiracy theories, but yeah, the more I hang out with you, the least choice I have around that. So, but who wins? Who wins?
Well, I mean,
when you have a system like that.
Yeah, it's the people
who move a bit closer.
Yep. Yeah, it's the people who run the system. It's very hard to call them out by name because they spend a lot of time putting structures and people and organizations in power that they aren't necessarily the face of. And you know, if you're paying attention to the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell at the moment, and
I have not. Sorry. Yeah.
So there's the theory that whole pedophile sex ring was just purely to, I guess, satisfy the urges of the elite, but also to compromise them and allow them to do the bidding of whoever was in charge of them. So there is people. It's hard to call them out by name, basically.
Yeah.
But there are organizations and people who have amassed just multiple countries worth of wealth for themselves and their families that have the ability to control and have been controlling the main levers of how we as a society work for just decades really, and even centuries in some cases. So those people, if you follow some conspiracies, believe that the need for mass population to achieve mass creation and production is over now because of the automation and the production of robots.
Wow,
so there is this idea that the vast majority of us are now useless because all we do is just are a drain on resources. So the idea is that they're extracting as much wealth out of us as possible into the upper class, and then getting rid of us or turning us into slaves. You know, Squid Games, you're either rich or you're competing in the Squid Games, and that's what's going to happen. They only want two classes of people: the poor and barely alive, and the just absurdly rich.
My goodness me. Hannah, any thoughts on this before we go to the next story?
Yeah, no, it is fascinating. Just to kind of bring thinking about theories also too. I got I was speaking to somebody today, and they actually told me that they've heard another theory that it's to microchip everyone so that everyone starts using Microsoft 365 and all Microsoft products, and so apparently
I
Bill
did
Gates.
not hear that.
Apparently, Bill Gates is saying that it's being microchipped, and actually you'll want to use Microsoft. And I thought, wow, there's so many different conspiracies, and it's just so wrong. It's like, just don't get it.
I think the point is though, is that people are waking up to how little they are actually in control of their own environment.
Yeah, no, I've also been having another conversation with a few different people. They've said they thought, oh, it was only 2 shots, and they've all said basically, oh no, we're not getting a booster, and then basically...
I've heard a lot of people say they're not getting the booster, Simon. I've heard a lot of people say, oh yeah, I did it for the mandate, I did it for my job, they had a corporate mandate. 2, that I think you said something similar to that effect a couple of weeks back about some friends of yours. It's not going to work like that.
No, it's not. Like, people need to realize, and we got called crazy and insane for saying this before they'd even mandated the vaccines in the first place. That they were going to mandate boosters. There was always going to be a new variant. There was always going to be increased case numbers. There was always going to be lockdowns and masks, and you were always going to have to sign up for boosters until you fell over, or who knows what else happened. But there is a continuous program. They are going to continue to make boosters mandated until we all say it's enough.
Yeah.
And by then, you know, I will say this, and then we'll move to the next story. A colleague of mine, who is Jewish, comes from a Jewish background. We were talking one-on-one, and I'll keep it brief because one-on-one conversation should be private. But one particular thing that I want to share is like, you know what's really interesting about the vaccinated and unvaccinated divide? When are they going to announce that the unvaccinated have to wear a yellow star on their clothing so we can visually point them out as we go about society? And if you know anything about history, we all know what the yellow star meant.
Yeah, it's I mean, and people get really upset when some people make the comparison because you know the Holocaust and apartheid and these events in history are just so horrific that people can't make the comparison. Like, people aren't saying COVID-19 vaccine mandates are just as bad as, you know, Holocaust and Nazis. No, they're saying, people are saying it's like that. This, you know, people
it's a lead up.
Yeah, it's like it. We're heading that way. We're at the beginning. You know, there are just far too many similarities for us to be okay with the situation. We know that our neighbours aren't getting marched off to quarantine camps and getting gassed just yet. But for the time being, you know, it's just a way for people to just really get it across to others that what's going on isn't right.
And I've thought of a really cool segue. Maybe we have the antidote to Jacinda on the way. And his name is Christopher Luxon. Now, this article from Newsroom, it's actually really cool. It goes into a lot of detail about potential picks for the new caucus. You don't call it a cabinet when you're not elected, you call it a caucus. So they just run through some really good ideas. However, Simon Bridges our mate from last week, has been confirmed as the new Minister for Finance. And my point in putting this story up, I suppose, is I wanted to hear from both of you, starting with Simon. What's your hot take on Christopher Luxon? Is he going to be the antidote we all need to Jacinda Mania?
Probably not. I think he's going to be another year and a half maybe of free easy digs from the media. I think unless he's about to make like a complete image change and appeal a lot more to the centre ideological politics and things like that, they're going to consistently bring up things like his vote on abortion, which they're already doing, or his vote against gay marriage and his faith, and they're going to always just point out that he's not progressive and he doesn't represent New Zealand. And I think he's just going to be an easy target unless he makes a significant change in the way he perceives him, or people perceive him, because at the moment he's not going to appeal to any large enough group of people to get the votes.
So hold on, are you saying that the whole of New Zealand is progressive left?
More progressive than him. Most of New Zealand is more progressive than him.
And the votes don't lie, actually, so I just shot myself in the face with that one. Because Labour currently have a uncontested majority at the moment. So
it'll be very interesting to see what that would look like on a snap election now, because I tell you what, the goodwill in the government is not as deep as it was before the pandemic.
Do you think it was a good idea to give Simon Bridges a high-ranking position?
I don't even know if he's very qualified to be the Minister of Finance. They call him the Shadow Minister, right? Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't
Finance portfolio. My apologies.
Yeah.
Did I say minister?
Yeah.
I'm really sorry for that. Finance portfolio.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't really know what sort of credentials he has to take that position, but he's still got good will in the public eye, and that's pretty much all that matters in modern politics, is how well people are liked. So yeah, he's worth having in a high-ranking position for the time being. Till another scandal.
Hey, if he can talk about his stroke game, he's human enough for me.
Totally.
Hannah, what are your thoughts around Christopher Luxon? You've been absorbing as much content as I have over the last sort of 6 days.
Yes.
So what do you think?
So I think there is hope for Christopher Luxon, but I definitely agree with what Simon said. It definitely depends on next steps, because there's so many people predominantly left. He does need to slightly appreciate some centre views.
How do you know he's not progressive though? This is right where I get stuck. Maybe this is a black and slow moment.
That was the next thing I was actually going to say to you. Is today I actually saw some content, and he's actually sounding like he's not half pie answering and bullshitting you. He's actually giving you the truth. So, and he's I think there's change. And the other thing that I also like about him, which I could really see, is that him as a leader, and the fact that he hasn't been in Parliament for that long. So I do like that.
He hasn't, like 500 something days.
Yeah, I do like that. So
you do like that?
Yeah. So I do like that. Just that fresh. We had one
John Key's mate.
Where John Key.
He's John Key's mate. Yeah. So is that fresh?
Yeah, he's taking advice. He's taking advice from John Key, but he is fresh into politics, and I think we've just had some bad luck. That's not the right words, but bad run with the previous leader, and then from the opposition, we're not doing so well. So I think we could really see some positive moves.
Todd Muller was obviously too beta for the role, so
Yeah.
you know, couldn't hack it. You know, there was a lot of talks about his mental health.
Sorry, one other thing I was just going to say is, what I thought was great just actually is the honesty about a minister actually telling the truth about, he didn't have his full understanding of the treaty, but he could actually
He's not a
basically...
minister, you keep saying minister,
Oh.
leader.
Sorry. The leader was, didn't have the full understanding of the Treaty of Waitangi, but he could answer most questions, and he was actually saying, well, I'm expanding my knowledge and talking to experts about this and talking to community.
Do you think it's right for the media to be fixating on the 7 houses? They're seeming to make it a bit of a thing, Simon?
Well, I think it was in the context of him opposing a housing project, and it was the fact that he was opposing, what they labelled medium density homes or something in his electorate when he has 7 houses, and it just kind of gives people ammo in that he's got a bit of a vested interest in restricting the housing volume, and when you've got 7 properties of your own. So yeah, but there's probably, I tell you what, there's far too many dodgy building projects getting the green light or getting retroactively okayed for there to be there is allowed to be an okay amount of criticism with some of the housing projects that are trying to be put forward, because we could be permanently damaging our environment without considering it, because we're just trying to beat the need of all the homes, and the government's really said, you know, if you can build new homes, find any way you can do it, because the housing supply is so buggered.
And you brought some amazing stories to the stream around, you know, golf courses and other high-end, you know, projects. I'll just call them projects because they're quite varied. That are affecting the environment.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely amazing. Well, there doesn't seem to be any convincing the guys here that Christopher Luxon is going to be the saving grace of Jacinda Mania. I'll say it again.
So do you really think that he's going to be the saving grace?
I can only about hope. I've not actually formed my whole opinion, because he does come across a bit douchey.
Yeah.
One other question, I remember it now. Simon, do you think running a country is the same as a business?
No.
In what way?
You're not obligated, I guess, to keep your employees alive.
Aren't you?
No, you're not supposed to keep them alive. Like, there's rules to keep them safe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I guess that are mandated, but there is, it's different in that a country you aren't supposed to be motivated by profit, right? There's no shareholders that are expecting a dividend in a country. Well, there is in a metaphorical sense, right? You could make some similarities between a business and a country, because as a citizen, I expect my investment in New Zealand to provide me a healthy future and a safe place to raise my kids. Like, in that way, that's my dividend for investing in the way the country works, and being an employee and, you know, working for the country, if that makes sense. So, I mean, it's very similar. There are similarities that can be drawn, but I definitely think there's a difference in that. While there is a government installed in place of a country, there are obligations of that government that you actually need to fulfill to keep your people happy.
Doco makes an amazing point, which I don't think a lot of people would be aware of. I was only most recently aware of this, most countries are actually registered businesses. And that is how they were able to obtain the loans or acquire the debt, as they would put it.
And the thing that I was going to say, compared to maybe his former employment, what he's done in the past, is big differences. Country, you've each got multiple portfolios to manage that you then have to, not personally have to manage, that is then have to be considered, and then community needs to have their input in that. And I think whereas a company, you just look at it in that narrowed mind of it's just one business, one direction, whereas you need to consider multiple different portfolios and multiple different areas and ranges.
I'm actually so glad you said that, because something I've been talking to Simon about. Simon, it's not necessarily all sunshine and rainbows in terms of ministers taking into account citizens' views. There are unnamed officials that don't change depending on the colour of the government. They don't change. Whatever day of the week it is, they're actually in charge.
Yeah.
Isn't that mind blowing?
Well, I mean, it's hard to know whether it's worse than what it's like in America, when all the way down through local government, people lose their jobs every time the colour of the office changes. So like you maybe you lose progress, but yeah, Doco says the illusion of choice, very true. Definitely does keep us heavy. What do they say? Left and right, or red and blue. They are the different wings of the same beast. I think I've said that before on this podcast too. But
and I know I don't like to get into conspiracy theories, but
they're so fun.
I was kind of taken by the series The House of Cards, and how like there was so much truth in the fiction of what was happening that you could kind of see that happening in real life, even if it never does. That there was so much truth in the fiction that it was kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe most of the plots, storylines of House of Cards are based on things that have happened in real life. May have never been reported on, but things that become whispers amongst the corridors end up in these TV shows because it makes great TV. And as long as the names aren't identical, then it's only just either a coincidence, that things might be similar, or the characteristics might be similar to someone who is in real life.
Yep.
It's all just it's never really confirmed, but they do it on purpose.
Doco says, I'm fed up with conspiracy now. I enjoyed them as a story, but I've lost a friend to, I'm going to say, full crazy now. That vaccines are going to be activated by 5G waves to wipe out the masses. It's getting old. I've never bought into the whole 5G thing. I actually know how phones work. Simon?
Well, everyone says that the frequency is what they call non-ionizing radiation, but the whole study of electromagnetic frequencies and ionizing versus non-ionizing radiation is very new, very young, and the science is still not confirmed on Bluetooth headphones that I'm wearing right now and the damage they might do to your head.
I wear them on the daily.
Yeah. So, and I can understand that because of the way 5G works, it's such a high frequency, so that it moves a lot quicker through the air, but dies out quickly. That's just the way it works. Faster and higher frequency won't travel as far. But you know, we haven't done lots and lots of testing in the frequency range and what it could do, so we never really know what the ramifications of widespread 5G coverage will do. I'm not going to say, I think they're installing 5G around the world so they can manipulate the vaccine material that we're going to be injected with to destroy us, but I think there's very relevant concerns about the advancement of the technology that are being wound up in the conspiracy talks and ignored. That's what I'll say. But
and it's fear that Doco would be a little bit frustrated with people like literally having that view. I can understand how that would just be mind blowing. That aside, though, I've done some perusing on Facebook, and it's really apparent that for whatever reason, like take discovery of the reason out of the equation, there are lots of people in New Zealand that are just not up for it right at the moment. That's fair, and it's probably more people are not up for it than's probably being quoted. I know the social justice warriors could hammer down on me for making a statement like that, but I truly believe it's been understated how many people are just not that keen.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I definitely agree. It's just unreal about what is going on in the sense of the difficulties and trying to move forward.
My rough estimate, and this is super rough, like I haven't even done a sketch on paper, Simon, but I'm estimating around 600,000 of the eligible population. Still saying, nah, I'm sweet.
Yeah.
There's still quite a fair chunk of society to kind of exclude.
And Doco says, just like our grandparents cannot use modern day tech like phones, be prepared for the next gen tech to have the same effect on us. Yeah, we don't understand it, we freak out, we say that aliens are talking to me through it. I mean, what's going to happen when the metaverse really becomes a thing? I know you're not a fan of the metaverse, actually, Simon. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, we've got a metaverse already. It's right there. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it, but only for the accessibility aspect. The idea that I could. Whoa, I need to get to this one. Kaya13, thank you for coming to the stream.
Hey.
Kaya says around 1 million Kiwis don't want the vax. Not sure if vax people that didn't want it are included in that or not. That is amazing. Kaya, your number is certainly bigger than mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, by a bit of a magnitude, but yeah.
I think that would include ineligible children, though, would be my bet.
Maybe, yeah. Well, it says there as well, people who got the vax that didn't want it. So it just says around 1 million Kiwis don't want the vaccine, not whether they don't have it. So maybe there. I mean, a lot. I tell you what, I was at a Crate Day party yesterday with probably more than 25 people at it.
Did you get through a crate, Simon?
No, I didn't drink. I was sober D. I was being
nice.
responsible.
Nice.
Yeah.
At a Crate Day party.
Yeah.
Nice. This guy, Alvarez.
Yeah, I know. Just being real boring and sober and driving mates around. Nah, but
And Alpha.
everybody I talked to, they're like, bro, I didn't want to get it, just because of work and stuff, or because I just want to travel or summer. But none of the people that I talked to wanted to get it, which is quite sad.
That's amazing. And like one point we haven't actually touched on, or at least I hope we haven't, and I've just blanked out about it. The expiry date on the passes.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up if
Did you know about that?
we can still play our video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up then. So.
This is a good segue. So apparently, people that have the passes, they only have them for 6 months. It's literally got an expiry date.
Yeah, well, because that's when they're going to mandate the booster then, probably.
Yeah.
And that's why they already have a booster out.
And I know people aren't interested in getting boosters. I've spoken to a lot of people that don't want it. It's becoming a medicine, and people are just trying to the government's just trying to call it a vaccine when it's becoming a medicine. If you're having to take something regularly every 6 months, that's not a vaccine.
Sorry for my bot. I actually thought I turned that off. Doco says, I haven't managed to get the vaccination yet. Not because I don't want it, just because I'm lazy and work long hours.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. So I guess I'm just as bad. Yeah, I'm just not that keen, and I think I've been pretty overt about that on the stream. Simon, there are people that say people are abusing the MedSafe reporting system at the moment. Do you have a take on that? I realise it's not fact, so we're not gonna frame it as fact.
Well, up until before COVID was a thing, everybody just assumed that vaccination injury reports were just across the board vastly underreported, right? They anywhere between 10 to 15 to 20, 25% of injuries was what was getting recorded in vaccine injury systems up until COVID. And then the narrative flipped, and all of mainstream media was saying, oh, well, everybody, they're self-reporting, and everybody and anybody can report into those systems. But everybody had agreed up until that point that they were underreported, and then now there's this distrust in the reporting system, and that it could be manipulated to create an agenda. Well, yeah, it is. It's being underreported to manipulate it to make it seem like there's less people getting injured or sick or hurt from the vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you've got a video for us. Let me just rack that up, Hannah. So we've been, sorry for the leaning over, by the way. I don't normally do this, but I kind of have to for this one. Simon, you might not be able to hear this, but we'll cover it off later. It's some coverage from CNA on the so-called Auckland Freedom Day. Is that right, Hannah?
Yes.
So let's play the clip.
And then I want to just talk to it a wee bit and...
Well, it's Freedom Day in New Zealand's largest city, Auckland. It has exited lockdown after 107 days. Cafes, bars and restaurants have opened their doors for the first time since August, but only to vaccinated customers.
Beautiful space that we've got, and it's really nice just to be able to open that up to the neighbourhood again. So
really excited to finally be out of the house and just meet new people and see other people.
It's just like a vibe, just to be here with friends, to be out alive, man.
The hospitality and retail sectors, as well as gyms, have opened their doors again. Officials have forged ahead with reopening despite the country reporting 92 new cases. A new traffic light system is now in force. Domestic border curbs in Auckland are set to end in the middle of this month. International border restrictions will be lifted progressively from January. The government wants to do away with lockdowns and allow normal activity for vaccinated residents. Some restrictions will still stay in place depending on that risk level in each region. Auckland and some areas are under red, that's the highest level. Most other states are orange. This removes the limits on gathering for locations using vaccine passes. There are no regions in the most permissive green zone yet. Tan Sui with more.
The clearest indication that the city has come back to life is the Auckland traffic. I was out this morning and the roads are very, very busy. So after more than 100 days of lockdown, fed up Aucklanders can finally go and eat in restaurants and cafes, drink in bars, and hit the gym. All this if you're vaccinated. Vaccine passes have come into play. It's a personal QR code that looks like this. That's my vaccine pass. So Auckland at red, there are limits of 100 people of vaccinated people at gatherings, whereas the rest of the country at orange, there are no limits if you're vaccinated. But at both settings, if you're unvaccinated, you cannot go to close contact businesses. So you cannot get a haircut, you can't go to events like festivals in summer, or go to the gym. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has said that if people want to be able to enjoy the freedoms allowed at every traffic light setting, the safest thing is to get the vaccine.
Introducing Speechalo, the most natural sounding text.
Me for that. Let me just. No, we're not gonna do that.
Okay, so big thing that I just want to raise. So this was an article from. This was a video from CNA that they
Wait, before you go, quote of that whole video. It's a vibe, Simon. That's why we need to get the vaccine. It's a vibe.
And that lady, she was like, I just love meeting new people. Hang on, you shouldn't really be able to go and meet new people. That's not very COVID safe.
Yeah.
Right? You're supposed to go out and hang out with your friends in a bar and sit down. You can't go out there and meet new people. Can't believe they just featured that irresponsibleness on the news coverage.
So this is CNA's actually from, they put in brackets, Taiwan.
Oh wow.
They say the state of China. So the state of China is China is actually getting this, and I just think it's utterly ridiculous. You know, there's a New Zealand video also showing that, you know, people have gone out, taken the days off, and were at bars and before lunch, or they were there at midnight and had work at 7 a.m. in the morning, and they were just saying, yeah, no, we're out at clubs, but we've got work in the morning.
Did you hear any stories of people going on midnight runs to the bars?
Nah, I saw a few people that were keen to ruin their weekend plans just for a night out, but
and there was one other thing that I heard is one girl said, oh, you know, I've had to drink for the last 15 weeks, I've had to drink beer out of a can. I was like,
you don't have your own glasses, love.
So she was like, oh my gosh, I've got to go. I get to go out. So for this, I'm thinking China's actually reporting about the traffic light system. I disagree with the traffic light system. We shouldn't be restricting non-vaccinated people. I remember probably about 5 months ago, we had the Director General actually say when Auckland gets to...
No, we're not going to do that.
We're not going to mandate, and also too, when Auckland gets to 90% vaccinated, which we are, there's not going to be a big deal on if you're vaccinated or if you're not. It's just going to be like, okay, that's fine, thank you very much.
Staying with Dr. Bloomfield, the Director General,
yeah.
What do you make of the revelation that he actually recommended the South Island go into level 1 some time ago? I can't actually remember exactly when.
Well, that would probably mean that somebody told him that would look too suspect if the whole South Island went to level 1. And people would start probably asking questions as to why they need to be locked down at all, kind of thing, if a whole island. So I think it's the same reason whole industries are getting mandated and whole businesses are getting forced for everyone in their organisations to get vaccinated. It's definitely the message I was told when I was urged to get vaccinated, and that, you know, it helps with the image, it helps to toe the line, it helps keep things consistent and fair. And
someone said that to you?
Along those lines, pretty much. Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you who that's not fair, but wow, mind-blowing.
Yeah, like totally unbound from science and risk discussions about a mandated vaccine.
And another thing I was just going to say too is those who haven't gotten vaccinated, you know, it's not necessarily anti-vax, it's that they're just not wanting to put something in their body that's not improved medication. And right now, I think most people are probably the ones who are following every other public health measure possible, compared to some others.
If you don't have COVID, you can't spread COVID. That seems to be a bit of a message that's been lost on people. I think I've said this before, but I feel compelled to say it again. Right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people definitely are acting like they've forgotten that fact. And it's not completely settled yet, but the big hullabaloo, you'll call it, around asymptomatic transmission of COVID definitely hasn't turned out to be the scary boogeyman that they made it out to be for quite some time. You know, when they're saying that we can mingle quite freely in outdoor settings without any risk of transmission, right? They brought back gym classes, workout classes, circuits where you swap gym equipment for groups outside with 20 plus people. If you are scared of COVID being transmitted outdoors in close contact with people, you wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah.
I must say though, and I'm gonna leave this out. I'm not gonna ask you guys to give examples unless you want to. But it really has been tough. So I've been labelled as of late as irresponsible, as anti-vax. I'm not anti-vax by any means. I've actually taken many vaccinations, all the meningitis ones. I've taken hepatitis. I've taken tetanus regularly because I'm always banging myself up when I crash on my bike over there. So you kind of need tetanus. It's affecting my personal relationships, stuff like that, and it goes without saying, you know, I've been lucky so far to have minimal fallout with my work, but it is gonna start to become a problem when my colleagues sort of give up on the idea of Zoom. I was saying this to Simon about offline. I'm doing alright for now, but as soon as everybody gives up on Zoom and I can't necessarily scan into the same building, it's gonna be a bit of a problem. Yeah, so I just want to say that this session tonight and just having Simon in my house has been a real morale boost, big morale boost.
Yeah, man, it's been tough for me too, just with some shit that's going on personally and the unfortunate circumstances that are being, what would feel like being forced on people, and making just good, honest individuals having to choose between compliance and their own personal friendships. It's tough, man. Like, it's really tough, and it just makes it more important to be able to have not moments of rebellion, but just moments of personal importance, like hanging out with mates and doing things, you know, just slowly and in person is all good.
I haven't felt it directly so much at the moment, but I think...
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, keep going.
What?
Doco's been apart from his wife.
You're still apart from your wife?
For the majority of this year. Yeah, he's still apart from her.
Wow. I thought there would have been a way for you to come back together. Wow.
You know, they do have these really cool remote vibrators you can buy. Anyway. Yeah.
Relationship tips with Jade.
Right now that I don't...
Coming up next, stroke game and what to do about it.
Right now I haven't felt it personally. I've kind of been able to keep it pretty quiet, but I think now, you know, for me, I've got a health condition, so that's when some people understand, but then they say, I think it will start being the question of trying to go places and trying to meet up and do things. oh, where's your vaccine pass? Oh, you need a vaccine pass to come into our offices now. Oh, so I think things will start to change, and I just hope that these protests, and I really hope that the work that's going on to change things actually supports people's views and isn't just trying to push people in one direction. We all have our own twists and freedoms and rights.
People close to Hannah and I, we met up with them for breakfast this morning. We went to Best Ugly down at Commercial Bay.
Nice.
And honestly though, bro, it felt like we were buying drugs. Yeah, because Hannah and I couldn't go in, and this close person to us, they had a pass, and they were doing it all and sorting out the money. It was just a nightmare and all this. But yeah, I felt like buying drugs, just getting a bagel and a coffee.
Trying to going back and forth. Oh, so what is it that you want? Oh, what kind? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I've got that. I've got this. Yep. Okay, got it.
It's probably honestly easier to buy drugs.
It's like you want to just live your life, and why should we be treated as doing wrong? No.
So I'm thinking it might be a good place to wrap. We have one episode left, I believe, Simon.
Yeah, that's right. Heading close towards the end of the year, the summer close up. Looking forward to a few weeks off just to forget about the madness or to get lost in it. Who knows? We'll see. Never come back.
So we are going to make sure it's going to be a real doozy of a pickle next week. It will be the last one. Following next week's show, you're gonna see some clips out from us. Just a bit of the year in review. I know we would have done like 15 episodes, but we're just going to take bits and pieces out of each just to remember the year that was. So we really encourage you to be following my YouTube channel and the Odyssey channel, just in case we get booted off YouTube, which is highly likely. To do that, you can type in the chat !social to get all those links. But moving to the wrapping now, I might start with you, Simon. Any final thoughts for tonight?
I think I've probably said this or something similar in a podcast before, but just with the timing of everything and the traffic light system and the unfortunate or awkward situations people find themselves in with people being removed or barred from places or parts of their life not seeming to be possible anymore. It's really important that we do what we can to maintain it and hold on to our relationships and our friendships that are closest to us, man. Like the people who are managing this pandemic would love for you to lose your informal support network, because anytime people become more dependent on the safety and the support of the government, it means they're a lot easier to control. And if there is a well-supported, organic, grassroots community out there, then they are much less prone to the shock of government action. So if we can maintain and strengthen our local networks, then we can be a bit more stubborn and a bit more stable against the mandates, as they most likely will escalate. So that's what I have to say.
I remember a quote around this. I don't know if I'm getting the wording exact, but just Google it if you want. But it was something around babies walking. If we left it up to teachers to teach our babies to walk, within a single generation, communities would believe that's the only way to get it done. Hannah, final thoughts?
Just been a great show tonight, guys, and really appreciate it.
How do you feel about Simon being in the building?
Amazing.
Come on!
Amazing. So good to see you, Simon. It was a great show, and I think we've just still got to stand strong, and I really look forward to seeing what's happening going forward and seeing what changes. And one thing that we kind of didn't mention but we did is we are starting to see some businesses actually highlight we're not going to be using the vaccine passes, so they're going to be staying as pick up only businesses. So I really do like that point, even though they've all had to get their shots to be able to
that
work.
sucks. Yeah.
So and the other thing that I was going to say, sorry, what I did forget, is we have had a message from our Prime Minister for the longest time: be kind to one another. It seems that has suddenly disappeared once the traffic light system came into play, and it's not being communicated at all.
Yeah, just from me, despite all of the sort of themes of doom and gloom that we've sort of expressed tonight on the show, I'm immensely grateful for my team right here, these guys right here, and also for the Farrar Familia, just for the fact of having this space to have really fulsome and civil conversations. I think I say almost every week. I cannot overstate how much I really appreciate the ability just to have conversations with reasonable people. But for now, thank you for being a part of the channel. Thank you for being a part of the journey. Please stay awesome. And how about we do it all together?
And
we'll see you in the next one.
Nice.